he challenged hell on stage, but prayed backstage. He was accused of worshipping the devil, but wore crosses forged by his father. He died known as the Prince of Darkness, but his faith was Christian. This is the untold story of John Michael Osbourne, says the man behind the myth. Born in Aston, a working-class district of Birmingham, England, in 1948, John Michael Osbourne was just another boy among 6 siblings, son of a humble metal worker. His father, Jack, shaped steel with his hands, and also shaped small metal crucifixes for his son to wear around his neck, not as decoration, but as protection. Ozzy grew up hearing the bells of Catholic churches and the street preachers shouting about salvation and sin. Faith was part of daily life in England, even for the poor and desperate. And there, between factory noise and whispered prayers, the boy who the world would come to know as the Prince of Darkness was born. But there was light in the darkness. Before fame, Ozzy was a janitor, a factory worker, and even spent time in jail for petty theft. The cold, quiet cell became a place of reflection. He once said, "When I was in prison, I used to pray every night. I had no one else to talk to." At 21, he formed Black Sabbath, a band that would shock the world with dark lyrics and thunderous riffs that seemed to summon the end of the world. But what few people knew is that the intention was never to glorify evil. Sa, the song After Forever, from 1971, holds one of the boldest declarations of faith ever heard in a band that so many swore was satanic. Would you like to see the Pope on the end of a rope? Do you think he's a fool? Well, I have seen the cult's truth. Yes, I've seen the light and I've changed my ways. And later, could it be you're afraid of what your friends might say if they knew you believe in God above? Those lyrics aren't empty metaphors. They're confessions. Ozzy believed in God, and he asked, "Why should having faith make me seem weak?" He said in interviews, "I believe in God. I believe there's something greater. I just don't trust churches all that much." This conflict between faith and fame, between stage and soul, is what shaped his journey. While millions saw him as a symbol of the occult, behind those eyes was a tormented man seeking redemption. In many moments of his life, Ozzy battled addictions that took him to the edge. But even in his darkest days, God's name never left his lips. He said his mother used to pray all the time. And even while under the influence, he would often repeat the words he'd heard from her. "God, if you're real, please help me." To some, he was a dark prophet. To others, a heretic. But only God knows a man's heart. In the 70s and 80s, while the world was chasing wealth and pleasure, Ozzy Osbourne walked onto the stage like a phantom, with dark eyeliner, massive crosses, and bat-biting theatrics. He seemed to embody everything religion condemned, but it was all performance. Ozzy understood the power of fear. He knew shock drew attention. The world wanted a villain, and he gave it the Prince of Darkness, but not without irony. He wore the cross as a central symbol. He painted pentagrams, but prayed before shows. He sang about the end of the world, but never denied his faith. In the song Revelation Mother Earth, he almost sounds like a prophet. "Mother, please forgive them, for they know not what they do. Looking back in history's books, it seems it's nothing new." Sound familiar? Luke 23:34. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." That's the paradox of Ozzy. While the media screamed blasphemy, he was talking to heaven. He confessed. "People say I'm satanic, but the truth is, I pray every night before I go to sleep. Every night. I always have." He never called himself a Satanist. In fact, he mocked the idea. In interviews, he'd say with a sad smile, "People want to believe I'm evil, but real evil is in Wall Street, in governments. I'm just a singer who screams loud. In the 2010 album Scream, Ozzy sang louder than ever and still delivered a plea. I know that faith is all I have, and tomorrow might not come. I'm holding on to the wings of angels, wings of angels. Can you picture it? The man accused of summoning demons, saying the only thing holding him up were the wings of angels. His symbols, the inverted cross, the bat, the darkness, were never about worshipping evil. They were distorted mirrors of a conflicted soul. They were silent cries from someone afraid of himself. In 2002, in the reality show The Osbournes, the world saw a different side of Ozzy. We forgot the demon of the stage and saw the loving father, the fragile man, the caring husband, dependent on medication, shaking with Parkinson's, but still joking with his kids, saying God bless you at the end of every phrase. Yes, he still said it, God bless you, even when called crazy, even when mocked by religious leaders and idolized by those who never knew his faith. Ozzy was like David in the Psalms. Save me, O God, for the waters have come up to my neck. Psalm 69, he was drowning, but he still cried out. When the curtain of life starts to fall, that's when the soul speaks its truth. Ozzy Osbourne, the rocker who stood before multitudes with bloodshot eyes and metal crosses, spent his final years surrounded by silence and faith. With a body weakened by Parkinson's, surgeries, and decades of chaos, he no longer screamed on stage, but whispered prayers at home. In recent interviews, Ozzy spoke of death like someone talking about an old friend. No fear, no panic, he said. We all have our time. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of leaving my family. But I believe in something beyond all this. I always have. In 2020, in one of his final public reflections on spirituality, he said, I believe in God. I know I haven't always been the best example, but I never lost my faith. When asked if he believed in heaven, his answer was simple, yes, and I hope God is more merciful than most humans. Ozzy knew, knew his life was a stage of contradictions. He knew many had called him the Antichrist, while he, in silence, held on to God's hand. His wife, Sharon, once said Ozzy would cry during prayers, that even while shaking, he held his rosary, that he always kept a Bible nearby. He was never a saint. But maybe, in his brokenness, he was more genuine than many who wear their faith. Like armor, instead of healing. In the end, Ozzy was just a man who sang to multitudes, who got lost along the way, but who, in the end, turned his eyes toward heaven. As he once wrote in one of his most touching and overlooked songs, Dreamer, I'm just a dreamer. I dream my life away. I'm just a dreamer who dreams of better days. And as life faded, that dreamer, the one they called Prince of Darkness, Spectres, wasn't asking for palaces, or thrones, or eternal fame. He was asking for peace. He was asking for forgiveness. He was asking for God. Today, John Michael Osbourne is no longer with us. But maybe, just maybe, he finally found what he was always looking for, far from the stage, far from the lights, far from the noise. Bick. Maybe he found a light that always flickered, even in the dark. And if even Ozzy, the symbol of chaos, carried faith in God, then there is still hope for all of us. If this story touched your heart, subscribe now to Glorify Forever here. We share spiritual truths the world forgets, but heaven never does. Like, comment, and share this video, because in the end, we are all just dreamers, searching for the light.